All right, are we live? Says preparing. Oh, we're live. Hey, I do that a lot. I'm waiting to see it say live and then we're live. Well, anyway, guys, I know today's been a rough day. I wasn't able to get everybody going live. I had to post a video, but this one's live. We have the amazing Shelby Morrison with us, one of two girls to go undefeated in the state of Texas. She was a four-time state champ, undefeated, which is pretty badass. She wrestled at Oklahoma City, three-time All-American, four-time national champ. I'm sorry, four-time state champ, three-time All-American, two-time World Team Trial qualifier, Olympic Trials qualifier, two-time University World Team Trial runner-up, and just an all-around awesome person doing Sisters on the Mat. She's here with us from Moore, Oklahoma. What's happening? Thank you so much for coming on. It's an honor to meet you. I'm so happy that one of your students' dads yelled at me for saying the wrong thing, but that's okay.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, it's really cool. And so only you and Alex Lyles. And then I asked her what was the best part of it, and she said, seeing the boys' faces when I would beat them.
Yeah, I mean, before it was sanctioned, we were wrestling boys, and I would say that's probably my favorite part too.
That's cool. Well, congratulations. Awesome. Now you're in your mid-20s. You're done with college and all that other stuff, and you're not competing anymore at a high level, right? Now you're coaching?
No, I was really tired of cutting weight. So when I finished the sport, I was pretty burnt out and kind of ready to be done. So now I'm coaching, which is so much more fun and less stressful for me than competing.
It's got to be tough to cut weight. You're at like the Oklahoma and Texas barbecue has got to be like the best in the country. So it's got to be tough to cut weight in those two states.
Yeah, college was an unpleasant weight cut just about every time. So we really didn't eat a whole lot of barbecue at that point.
No barbecue happening. Well, obviously we've had this little pandemic thing going on this summer, there's been COVID. What, you obviously coach girls out there, coach wrestling out there, coach clubs and so on. What kind of effects has this had in Oklahoma?
Not as much as what I'm hearing from other states. Our club team, the Moore's Youth Club team is still doing practices. We've been doing practices for a couple of months, 4 days a week, and some weekends even doing live practices. It's been interesting because a lot of other teams are not doing practices. So we're having kids from other teams come to our room and wrestle with our kids. So it's been really cool having just different kids around like the Oklahoma City metro area coming to our room and wrestling with us and seeing our kids get to, practice, consistently with other kids from around the area. So it's been really cool. And then coaches have been coming in and helping with practices too from other clubs. So I think we're less affected than what I'm hearing from other states. And we've been running tournaments and our kids have been going out of state for tournaments. So we really haven't slowed down much at all.
Oh, wow. Well, good for you. Yeah. I mean, I think the states that aren't as congested seem to do better. Like I talked to people in Iowa or people in the outskirts of some of the states like Pennsylvania or upstate New York, and they tend to be opened up a little bit sooner. Down here, everybody's pretty close. But we're starting to see a downtick here in Florida. So I'm excited. My wife has finally gave me permission. I can get 2 days a week with my son at the club. So hopefully I can start that this week. I'm sure he'll be totally happy to go see his friends and his coaches. He's been inside since March.
Right. Well, the pandemic obviously has its cons, but I've seen a lot of kids when they haven't been able to go to practices in a while, they're that much more hungry for it, when they get to return to practice. So it's been really cool. A lot of my kids have just been wrestling different. Have gotten better over the last couple of months. And I don't know if that's because, they went a couple of months without sports and now they're more invested and excited about it. But, as a coach, I can't complain.
Yeah, or maybe now, I mean, maybe the rest. I don't. He's been lifting weights, but maybe not the grind of wrestling. You come back, your bones don't hurt. You're kind of healthy.
Right.
But yeah, I think that he has definitely missed it, and it'll be exciting to. He gets mad at me because I'm like, I don't care if you lose the first match in 2 minutes. I just want to be happy to go see wrestling again. He's like, you're an asshole. I do care. I don't want to lose
Yeah.
minutes. I'm like, okay, well, I'm dad. I don't care. I just want you to have fun. And he's, I just want to smell.
Or go out and win. That's fine too.
Yeah, yeah. I won't be mad at you. That's awesome. Well, I know that one of your big pushes, because you came from Texas, and Texas was sanctioned years and years ago. So the growth of women in Texas has been going. Now in Oklahoma, your goal has been, since you've been there, to build up the sport for the ladies, correct?
Hmm.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's been completely different because I grew up wrestling boys, so it was weird for me when I got into high school and I was only wrestling girls. And then I got used to that, and then I went to college and wrestled all girls. So then being in Oklahoma, my understanding right now is that we're not quite sanctioned yet. We had our first high school state tournament for girls last year, and it ran at the same time as the boys, but it was kind of just like a practice run to see how it would go. I haven't, like I said, I haven't seen any notifications that it's been sanctioned, but they're in the process of doing so. I think they're supposed to do it this year. So it'll be interesting, but it's just been completely different, already having that going into high school versus now we're trying to get it sanctioned. We're pushing for it. We're trying to build a sport in the state in general, because there's not a whole lot of girls in Oklahoma that wrestled, when I was growing up. And so we're trying to grow just the girls even competing at this point, to the point where I'm telling my girls, bring friends in. You need to bring friends so we can introduce them to wrestling, get them started, and get some more girls participating. So that's been the biggest difference. Is it's a little weird for me that we're having to push so hard for it, and we're really having to build it and get girls interested out here. Whereas boys in the state of Oklahoma is really big in wrestling. So it's been a bit of a challenge, but we've got a lot more high schools starting girls programs out here. I feel like I hear about a new one every week, even in the middle of a pandemic. It's wild to me. A lot of different high schools are starting programs, whereas last year, the only program really was in Tulsa with Broken Arrow. So it's been interesting. Everybody's trying to grow it. A lot of the coaches I've talked to that are wanting to start programs, obviously male coaches, and they're super excited about it. Been asking me around if I know anyone interested in helping coach, because there's so many programs popping up that we almost don't even have enough female coaches in the area to assist with it. So it's a good problem to have, but it's building and getting a lot better.
So is that where the whole Sisters on the Mat came from? I know that's something that you started, and that's your movement, and just tell us about it.
So Sisters on the Mat does not belong to me. It's an organization that began in Texas, in Azle, Texas, actually, by Monica Allen. Monica Allen used to be the director of Team Texas in like with high school girls, especially Fargo and stuff, but she was the director for girls wrestling in Texas for a long time. And she's the one that began Sisters on the Mat, just kind of to grow wrestling and more so grow, that bonding and that sisterhood. And so she started that program, has been doing it for a couple of years, and it's grown tremendously. She now lives in Amarillo, so she's had to move it from Azle to Amarillo and get used to Amarillo wrestling, how much different that is from the Dallas area. And so she likes for me to participate in things. Oftentimes I'm on like Zoom meetings with a ton of Texas coaches. And the last one we did, I was like, Monica, I'm really confused on what what part I play right now, because I haven't done Team Texas in a couple of years. She no longer coaches Team Texas. And I'm like, I live in Oklahoma. I've been here like 8 years. I really need you to help me out on what my role is. And so I decided I would start helping grow, women's wrestling, especially in the Oklahoma City metro area. A lot of the biggest area for girls wrestling out here is Tulsa. A lot of the teams and a lot of the girls in the state are out in Tulsa, and the opportunities are out that way. And that's probably, 2.5 hours from here. So obviously our kids aren't going to be going back and forth to Tulsa very often. So that was the goal, was to get something going out here, help grow the sport out here. And I started with the Moore Club team first. So I had a couple of girls already, and I was like, the girls in this area need a team that they can join and they can go to practices with. And so I told Monica, we should start one out in Oklahoma. So there's Sisters on the Mat in Texas. It's kind of out of Amarillo. And then I started Sisters on the Mat here, and basically just opened up to anyone who wants to go. And so right now we do Sunday practices from 1 to 3. We're in Bible Belt, so we give people time to go to church in the morning. And it's just hard during the weekdays. They have their own club teams that they go to, and weekends they're competing. So we decided to do Sundays. And so we've had a decent amount of girls coming out. Yesterday, we actually did an hour and a half practice because we don't have air conditioning in that building. So the girls often complain that it's too hot. And they wanted to go to the pool. So we went to the pool after. So it was a lot of fun getting to see them hang out and interact on the mat, and be so welcoming to new girls that come in every week, and then getting to see them play and hang out off the mat at the pool. So it's growing, not only girls wrestling in the sport, but the camaraderie, and also, helping the girls learn social skills, be respectful to each other, and, all of the things that I feel like are most important for kids. In my opinion, it's more than wrestling for me as a coach. So it's nice to see them grow in those aspects as well.
There should be a Sisters on the Mat in every state.
There should. We could work on that, but
Yes.
for now it's Oklahoma and Texas.
It's awesome.
So
Well,
they travel all over the place. I think Monica takes the girls to Iowa every year. They go to New York for Gotham City every year. So they go as Sisters on the Mat to tournaments with dual teams, and the girls hang out and compete. And she does this bigs and littles thing where she tries to get high school, college girls, building relationships with the younger girls. And so it's really interesting to see the bigger girls step up and be a good example for the younger kids.
well, I didn't know about it until I met you, and I put the logo up there, and it'll stay. I had Victoria Francis on, and she saw it. She was like, "I love it." So, girl power, right?
Right.
What So you grew up in Texas. Obviously, we know the story now. 4-time state champ, undefeated, kicked everybody's ass in Texas. What got you into the sport? Why did you choose wrestling?
I played a ton of sports as a kid. I started with soccer at 5, and that was kind of my passion. And I played on a co-ed team, and one of the kids on my team, his mom would pick me up after school every day because my dad had to work really late, and that kid wrestled. So I'd have to go sit. They actually had like a family room, which I think all wrestling rooms need parents to stay in there.
A family
Stay
room?
put. Yes. And it was a separate room where you could still see through the windows, but you had to stay back in there and not scream and yell at your kids and come in here and cause a bunch of anxiety.
That doesn't
So,
happen. Stop.
oh, I think it was great. I really think
Parents
it should
don't
be a
come running out
requirement.
on the mat yelling and screaming.
They do all the time. Wrestling parents are crazy. But I would go there to practice this and stay for the whole practice while he practiced. And then one of my one of the girls on my co-ed team actually wrestled as well. So I don't know if it was seeing her wrestle and thinking, hey, this is pretty cool. But I remember one day I wrestled one of the kids' brothers that didn't wrestle. And we were in that little like family waiting room area. And there was like one of those, those like kindergarten nap mats.
Yes.
Those like long mats that are super uncomfortable. It was in that room, and I don't know him, and I wrestled and I won. And I was like, this is a cool feeling. And so I want to wrestle. And so I begged my dad to let me wrestle. The whole first year we would run, and I'd run in a circle and go right into the bathroom and cry. But after we made it through that first year, I never quit. So I don't know, I was introduced to, I don't think I knew anything about wrestling prior. I was 8 years old when I started. So I think a lot of it has to do with someone introducing you, and then you're like, hey, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, and I've had some great stories and some great things. And so, going undefeated in Texas, did you ever feel pressure, like when you'd start getting to the end of seasons or you'd start getting into the big tournaments? Were there people like, hey, did you start to get everybody's best? I mean, was everybody trying to take your O?
I honestly think high school ruined a lot of things for me, because going undefeated for me also came with wrestling not to lose. So I developed this anxiety when I got into college of, wanting to win so bad that I'd wrestle not to lose. And I would lose matches that I shouldn't have lost, or I wouldn't even give myself a chance before, wrestling some of the girls I knew were better. So I just go out there and tank it. And so it created anxiety that I don't feel like I had prior to high school. But I had pressure in 8th grade. I had people coming up to me asking me if I was, going to be a 4-timer. And I didn't know. I honestly was very humble going into high school, because I didn't know how much different it would be. I knew that they were older than me and they were bigger than me, for the most part. And so I was like, I don't know, what's going to happen. And so I was really humble going into it. I didn't think that I was going to whoop anybody. I didn't even expect to win state. And it kind of happened. But after a couple of years, that anxiety built up and I started wrestling not to lose. And I think that more than anything is what got me into some sticky situations a couple of times, at tournaments. And then it just, you're wrestling for other people more than yourself, or that you're wrestling for this expectation more than you are to just go have a good time, so it created a lot of anxiety I didn't have prior. But yeah, I will say I had one time this girl put me on my back because I was probably doing something lazy, and the whole crowd was screaming and cheering and wanting her to beat me. So that happened often. I got booed for my 4th state title. I got booed by the whole crowd because they felt like I didn't deserve to win. So yeah, I
Yeah.
would say it wasn't like the best experience.
Haters. Yeah, everybody's always looking for an upset, right? They want to see Alabama get beat. They want to see the Yankees lose the World Series. They want, but because of those experiences, I know that you've coached Team Texas for a long time. You've coached now club girls. Going back into and teaching that level, and teaching girls that were tremendous in Texas, did you have those conversations with them? Like you mentioned, you coached Alex a little bit on the world team, who went undefeated, the other girl, and some other big names on your Texas team. Did you ever go back and say, hey, don't change who you are because this is what happens? Or do you tell young kids what you went through to try to prevent them from having that happen to them? Am I making sense?
Yeah, maybe not so much the story of it, but make it a habit to tell kids to have fun. And I used to think that was the dumbest thing, because I had a coach in college that always told us to go have fun. And I was like, At this point, I don't see what's fun right now. I'm cutting weight. I'm working out twice a day. I'm not having fun right now. Like, I don't see what's fun at this point. I'm getting whooped in practice. We're sitting here losing several pounds working out, and I was like, fun. And so I lost that. I feel like earlier on, and I don't think all of it was completely me. I think, along the way, a lot of things affected my love of the sport. And so I tend to tell kids all the time, like, have fun, figure out a way to have fun, because if you don't, it's going to be it's a very miserable sport to do if you're not enjoying it, if you're not having fun. And especially little kids, it's hard, because if you're getting your face slammed in the mat all the time, or your coach is trying to break you in practice, and you're crying, and you're just getting whooped all the time, it's easy to be miserable and to not like it. So I always say, like, the most fun part of wrestling is winning, to be honest, and getting your hand raised, because everything else is leading up to it is rough. Practice is rough, cutting weight is rough. In college, going to school, working, and doing all of these things is really hard. And so getting your hand raised at the end of the day is the best feeling. And so I would say, more than anything, I don't really talk a whole lot about high school and the things that I've done, because I feel weird talking about it sometimes, especially being a coach now. I don't want to make it about me at all. So I just tell them, like, have fun, just have a good time, find a way to love the sport. I'm big on kids doing multi-sports so they don't get burnout in wrestling. But yeah, I would say my motto is go out there and have fun. If you lose, I'm not going to be mad as a coach unless you just straight up quit. But otherwise, every time on the mat is an opportunity to get better. So I just always want them to have a good time.
Yeah. Did you give it 100%? Do you feel like you put all the effort in? Okay.
Often kids are hard enough on themselves that as a coach, you really don't need to do a whole lot extra to get onto them. They're already beating themselves up about it. And most of the time they already know what they did wrong as well. So I really don't have to do a whole lot in that department of, hey, do you really think that's the best you could have wrestled, or getting onto them, because they already beat themselves up enough.
That's awesome. I mean, you're obviously so humble and down to earth, and it's cool talking to you. But yeah, I mean, a lot of, I think we talked about this a little bit with Victoria. She said, you just see the outside of the athlete. You see them coming up to the mat and happy. You see them getting their hands raised. You see the winning moments, but you don't see what's going on behind the scenes. So, keeping your mind right and that mental health aspect is tough, because especially when you're good, because when you're good, it seems like a lot of people may want to see you lose, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, well, that sucks. Well, I think I know the answer here. You obviously enjoy the observation more than the experience, and you wish, obviously, that it wasn't like that, but it is, because you had some unfortunate stuff. But that's why you're able to give back, and it's damn sure why you're a great coach to these kids, because you're coaching the way you would have wanted to be coached, right?
For sure. I was telling one of my parents the other day, I was like, I'm not a yeller. I'm not a yeller. I am not going to look crazy in front of everybody screaming at your kid. Most of the kids that I come into contact with are disciplined enough that I don't need to do that. I'll be firm with them, and I'll have a certain tone with them if they're horsing around, but I'm not going to scream at your kid. I didn't like being screamed at. That did not help me at all. I don't personally think it helps kids. Now, everybody will coach and parent the way that they want to, but I don't so much believe in screaming and yelling. I feel like your kid should be disciplined enough and should be respectful enough to listen to their coach and do what they're told and work hard. I shouldn't have to scream at your kid. So I never knew what kind of coach I would be. And I've surprised myself at how well I've done with specifically girls, because girls do tend to be more emotional, or at least their emotions come out differently than boys. And I've noticed a lot about, I almost feel like a lot of times my girls care more than the boys, or they want to please their coach, or they want to do well more than the boys do, and their emotions look different. And so sometimes you can see them getting frustrated if I keep asking them to work it again, or if I correct something and I'm like, do it again, and then I correct it again, I'm like, do it one more time, do it again, do it again, um, so that they can get it corrected right in the moment. They'll get really frustrated, and you can see it in their face, or they'll start to cry. So sometimes I have to tell them, like, go take a break, go get a water break real fast. Like, I'm not going to sit here and push your kid emotionally when they're already irritated and upset. So go get a break. It's okay to have a break. It's okay to slow down. It's okay if you don't get it. I'm not here picking on you. We're just trying to get better. So it's different coaching boys than girls. But I've definitely surprised myself in the way that I coach, and I love it so much more. I feel like sometimes I live vicariously through my kids. Not even so much that, like living vicariously because I wish that I would have been that way, but it feels so good it feels so much better as a coach to see your kids do well than it does as an individual or as an athlete to do well. It's the weirdest thing. I don't know. I don't have kids, but I'm assuming this is what parenting feels like. Just being so much more proud of your kid or your athlete than you ever were of yourself. It's a cool feeling.
Uh, if you are blessed one day to have children, would wrestling be the sport you would push them towards?
So when they're about 4, yes, mainly because I'm selfish, and they'll be like tiny with their little shoes on and their singlet, just hugging each other. But if they hate
Especially
it,
want to see two little cute kids in a
it's
singlet.
the cutest thing. It's the cutest thing. It doesn't even matter. Technique is not a thing at this point. But it's the cutest thing. But I would say, if my kids hate wrestling, or if they hate a sport, or they don't want to do something, I'm not gonna force them to do things they don't want to do. I'll be sad, and I also don't think I'll coach my kids either, because I tried that with my little sister once. And I feel like I got so much more frustrated with her than I did any of the other kids. So I don't know that I'll actually coach my kids. I'll probably let someone else do that. Maybe give some advice sometimes, but
Do you have to step up anytime and whoop some girls' asses or boys' asses if they're trying to, maybe they think you don't have it anymore? Do you still got to get out there and kind of put it on
so I'm so out of shape.
them?
Honestly, I haven't consistently worked it out in years. I've gotten on to, it's been interesting because as a female, I always say it's really difficult to gain male respect in the sport. Um, well, especially when I was younger. I think it's getting better now for the most part. But I even felt that anxiety at 26 years old, walking into the more youth wrestling room, thinking, well, I don't know how, I mean, this is Oklahoma. I don't know how I'm going to be received by the boys. I don't know how I'm going to be received by the dads. Um, this is a state to me that is big in the South in wrestling, and they're not sanctioning girls, and there's not a ton of girls. So I had a lot of anxiety about the way I would be received with the boys. So I tended to gravitate towards just working with the girls. And then I kept seeing boys making mistakes, and I just couldn't help them figure it out. And so I remember one time I had a dad come up to me after practice. His kid's tough. And he came up to me after practice. He was like, "Thanks for working with my kid." And so I have not had any issues with, I don't know if this imaginary thing that I made up in my head, but I haven't had any problems with coaching the boys either. I have had my older boys like to goof off and joke around and stuff. So I have had to get onto a couple of boys and say, "Hey, what are we doing over here? Because I know we're not wrestling. We're talking. You can get phone numbers later. I don't know what this is." And one of the boys, I don't know if he like rolled his eyes or he did something. And I think his parent or somebody made him come apologize to me the next day. I was like, it's all right, man, but like I feel like you're way more talented than how you're wrestling right now. And I've told him before, I said, how'd you do at state this weekend? Oh, I didn't play. So I was like, well, that's funny because you don't do anything in practice. So that's probably why you're not placing, buddy. So I haven't had any issues with that for the most part. My kids respect me. I do have a girl that comes to my sisters on the mat practices, a little bit bigger than me. Tough. I've known her since she was in middle school, but she'll come and not have a partner. And so then I'm sitting there like, great, I get to wrestle today. I'm going to be so sore tomorrow. If I tear something, I'm going to be mad. It's just like you could get injured so much easier. But I feel like she got tired quicker than I did. And at least I can handle the heat of the no air conditioning because that's what I grew up with. So I'm like,
Well,
not a problem for me.
your mindset too is a little bit different. Even
Mhm.
at their age in high school, you still have that mindset. Like I had Julia Salata on,
Oh no.
and she's obviously well known, but she says when she's coaching at King, she says, there's no way. I beat these girls up the hills. I beat them around the campus. If they want to wrestle me, I make sure they don't ever touch my legs. She just has that mindset like, it's okay. So, yeah, I'm sure your mindset is, plus you're experienced, right? So there's moves that these girls haven't even learned yet. You've
Yeah,
got,
I teach them something new every time. So I'm like, I do have one kid in particular that is like 100 pounds, and she likes to joke with me that she'll whoop me all the time. She calls me Rusty Rhonda because I'm old, I guess. I don't know.
ultimate.
But she likes to joke around that she could beat me and stuff. And then when I actually like get on the mat to wrestle her, she is like, no, no, no. So I can't wait till I have 3 or 4 middle school girls that are super tough. And I told one of them, I said, you just wait. You guys are coming up close to my weight. And so you're going to have a workout partner forever. And I can't wait for it.
You're going to have to get back to the gym.
I know, probably starting now. I had a couple of years, but I need to start right now. It'd be a good idea.
That's awesome. That's fun. And that must have felt good when a dad came up to you and said, hey, thanks for working with my son.
Yeah.
I was like, it's working. I'm doing the right thing here.
I feel like the boys sometimes listen to me more than a lot of people too. Like I said, I don't yell. I'll just be firm and I'll look at them and I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah. You don't
Let's work to move, quit horsing around. And I'll
uh,
make them go outside and run.
you're like, wow, you're pretty good for a girl.
They would hate that. They'd be so mad at me.
That's
I don't
awesome.
pick on them as much, but the boys are just, they're different. They're a lot of fun, and it's been interesting to coach both, and to get to know both, genders of kids, and it's been a good time.
Cool. All right, you ready for the 10 questions?
I'm ready.
All right. Amarillo or Oak City?
That's a terrible question. Okay, listen.
That's a terrible.
No, because Amarillo, I have a thing about moving back to my hometown, but I would say my parents live in a cool area that is private, in the canyon. So in Amarillo is Paladar Canyon. It's the second biggest canyon in the country. And so in the canyon, we like go float in the pond, and we take the ATV out. And so that part of Amarillo, like where my parents are specifically, I would choose that. But I would say I live in Norman. So, and I like Norman. The lakes down the road, there's trees. Like Amarillo really doesn't have trees. And I just am so amazed by trees because it's like I've never seen them before. There's more hills. So I don't know. I think that there are pros and cons of both. So
You
I
can be
can't pick. I
you
can't
can be
pick.
politically correct. There's no rules to this game, so you can say push.
Well, neither one. How about neither?
All right. Chicken fried steak or fried chicken?
Chicken fried steak. If my mom's cooking it specifically.
Love mom's cooking. All
Mhm.
right. The Amarillo Zoo or the Oklahoma City Zoo?
haven't been to the Oklahoma City Zoo.
'Cause
And
that-
no, I have not been to Tiger King either. I get asked that all the time.
well, the good thing is I wasn't going to ask you about Tiger King.
You weren't?
No, I don't give a
I don't
shit.
really go to zoos. I feel bad. The animals have to be stuck in cages. I'm more of like animals need to be in their own
Habitat.
habitat, in their own setting, like living a normal animal life. Like I don't understand the concept of having penguins in Oklahoma. Why do we need penguins here? I don't like it. You're gonna get me on my soapbox with the zoos.
All right, so we'll go away from the zoo. All right. Tiger King. No, I'm just kidding.
I think he was set up. I think Carol Baskin set him up, if you're wondering what my opinion is.
Carol Baskin. Yeah, I think she did too. Oklahoma barbecue or Texas barbecue?
Texas,
That-
Texas,
You didn't even let me finish.
Texas.
Frontier City or Wonderland?
Oh, they're the same. They're
Okay.
the same. Both terrible. Both terrible.
Oh.
Six Flags.
Indian taco or fried pie?
Indian taco. I'm more savory than sweet type of person.
I like savory myself. Sizemore Museum or Infantry Museum?
I haven't been to either one. Not
Faux
really.
or banh mi?
Faux.
You know those. Center City or Ferris Wheel District?
Ferris wheel.
Okay, I think you know what these two are. So I think this question will be okay.
Okay.
Root beer or cherry lemonade?
Root beer.
It says that these are famous things from Texas and Oklahoma.
I don't usually really love root beer. I would say if I'm gonna go with a cherry something, it'd be a cherry limeade.
So not cherry lemonade.
So yeah, limeade. So basically, so maybe I would pick that over root beer, honestly.
What if the
Cherry
root,
limeade.
what if the root beer has vanilla ice cream in it?
I would rather do a Coke float than I just don't love root beer.
Yeah, Coke
It
float.
tastes really funny.
How
Coke
about
float.
an orange soda with vanilla ice cream?
That would be good.
You
That would
look-
be really good. I'll have one of those later now.
Yes, I was just gonna say you're gonna go. Do
It
you know how
sounds so
many
good.
people? Do you know how many people I get after this show? Like later on, I'll get a text and go, "Damn you! I'm at that pizza spot. I hadn't eaten
At
here."
least I can have it now.
Yeah.
Hey, you're not hurting my feelings. I'll just go and grab one right now, and I won't have any problems.
I had Eric Floyd on, and I was like, "Pho or ramen?" He's like, "Oh, that's right. There's a pho place right now. Oh, I'm so going after the show." I'm like, "Oh, my bad." I get messages from the restaurants. It's pretty funny, but
That sounds good.
and it's fun. And this was awesome. And I appreciate you so much for coming on. And I'm so happy that I got to meet you and totally by chance. And it was awesome because that's how I get to meet people. Someone refers them or tells me about them. And again, another badass wrestler in our country that should be talked about, but she's hiding in Oklahoma. So meet Shelby Morrison. If you're from
Come wrestle for me if you're in the area.
Yes, ma'am. I love it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, keep kicking life's ass and doing your thing. And I'm trying to get some of those women wrestling live stickers in. So when I get them in, I'll send you one.
Cool. I appreciate it.
All right. You take it easy. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
And thank you to the guy that referred you. What's his name?
Matt.
Matt. Thank you, Matt. Shout out to Matt.